Hi, folks. All right, I'm going with a New Belgium Oakspire. It is a collaboration between New Belgium and Four Roses, who makes an excellent whiskey, excellent bourbon out of Four Roses. Especially their small batch is just, I can't sing enough praises. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the bourbon barrel beers. It's just, oftentimes it's too heavy on the alcohol. I know, I love bourbon, I love beer, and oftentimes the bourbon characteristics bleed too much into it where it isn't as crisp and drinkable as you would expect a beer to be. And it's just, when I reach for a beer, I want it ice cold, I want it super carbonated and something that's going to quench my thirst. And sometimes when it's too much alcohol, it kind of takes away from it. It doesn't know if it wants to be, a cocktail or a beer. But this is 9% ABV, and I'm just going to read the side of the bottle because as I was sipping it while you guys were sipping on your beers and I was getting jealous. That's one thing. I don't think any of us really are sommeliers. We don't have accentuated palates. We're not chefs at a Michelin star restaurant. So oftentimes if you just read the side of the bottle, it can kind of inspire your brain to pick up notes that you might not notice right away. I mean, most of us are very good at picking up the typical, chocolate or caramel, coffee, sweet, tart, sour, whatever. We're good at that, but like the little nuances, sometimes you need a little inspiration. So, a limited edition collaboration between New Belgium and Four Roses. Oakspire is a unique bourbon-inspired aged ale with oak spirals and char from inside the barrel. Smooth note of toffee, vanilla, and caramel wrap up this refined finish. Oakspire, where innovation meets tradition. So, somebody else that spent some time on the outside of the bottle writing a little paragraph. Good for that person. Cheers. Okay. I'm not going to say wow because I'm waiting for Rook to... I see Rook waiting for me to say wow. Not going to do it. Not going to get me this time, you bastard. Those don't count, Nick. So you get the bourbon flavor right away. You get that smooth, that little bit of woody finish, caramel. Very, very sweet, like a sweet bourbon. Not sweet like if you ate candy or something like that. It's not going to be sweet. Like if you drank this and you're not a fan of bourbons or beers and you took a sip of this, you're not going to think at all this is sweet. But if you're a bourbon drinker, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. That caramel sweetness, that note to it, that finishes all the way through. Very good. I actually picked up on this beer, unlike a lot of other bourbon barrels that I've had. You definitely pick up the hops on this, which that little bit of bitterness definitely gives it a little more complexity. I like that. It still lets you know that it's a beer, which is great. This is probably the first time I've ever had a barrel beer that lets you know, like, hey, there's hops in here. We're still a beer, folks. That was very good. But to my point in the beginning, the toffee, I wouldn't think toffee right away. I would just get that caramel. But after reading that and sipping on it, it's like your brain lets you know, like, oh, hey, it's supposed to be there. And you can kind of keep cruising, and you find that note. And it's there, man. It's something special when your brain just lets you know it's there. You read something, and then you can go find it. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, pretty good. So, my sports take, the New York Rangers, for the fifth year going, is the most valuable NHL team at $2.2 billion. So, I mean, being here in New York and paying for tickets to a Ranger game, buying a couple beers and walking out of there feeling like you just got fleeced and you need to take out a mortgage, I can see why they're making money and racking it up. But the Rangers are a very profitable team. That is awesome. On a side note, the salary cap is supposedly only going up maybe $1 million into next year. So this is where, I'm good. I like my debates. This is where a debate kicks in of, should there be a salary cap? If a team is sitting there, creating wealth and creating value, I understand New York City is a huge market team, but the NHL isn't a big market sports like it doesn't. It's probably the fourth most popular sport in America. I mean, it's not something that generates a whole lot of money. So even with the New York Rangers being in New York, if you can generate wealth for your team and then actually can't spend it and they're still, pretty much hamstringed by the salary cap, is that really fair? I mean, the purists of the sport would say, hey, that means you just got to draft better and develop your young talent and get them to a level where your team can be competitive and make a push through the playoffs. But in reality, it definitely hinders what you can do and who you can bring in, especially the way these contracts are. The NHL has kind of followed suit with everybody else, not as much as the NBA and the NFL and the MLB, but it's still making huge jumps, leaps and bounds for huge contracts and lengthy contracts. And a lot of teams are getting stuck with players. I mean, how many times have the Rangers gotten absolutely screwed? The Devils have gotten screwed. The Islanders have gotten screwed with long, lengthy contracts and big money that they now can't shed. And with something like the salary cap and how little the salary cap rises in the NHL, I understand the point of, develop your young talent and it keeps it more fair. But you got to raise it a little bit because the contracts are going up, but the salary cap isn't increasing in a percentage to make it all even out. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to do math with you guys because that's not what you do over beers, but I'm just saying I would rather see there be a bigger space to spend money than limiting that space. And now it's just, nickel and dime, nickel and dime, nickel and dime, or hey, we want to get fans in the stands. We got to re-sign this guy, and then just have an absolutely crapshoot when it comes to developing the rest of the team. So that's my sports take. Back to the beer. It is smooth. It is bourbony for sure. But I got to say, it is not overwhelming, even with that 9% ABV. Not overwhelming at all. I wouldn't say it's crushable. This is definitely like an end of the night, maybe one or two, and sip on it and reflect about all the things you're grateful for in life and being the luckiest person in the world. I mean, Nick is sitting there in a bathrobe. I don't have a bathrobe. I'm kind of jealous. But I have this delicious beer, and that's all I need. So I'm going to give this a 2.8. And that's not a bad 2.8. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the bourbon barrel ales or bourbon barrel beers, but as far as all of the ones I've tried, this is probably the best one I've had so far. So if you like the bourbon barrel beers, definitely check this one out. Highly recommend it if that's what you're into. Me personally, not my thing, but still a pretty good beer. Worth the shot.